You will now set up the general supplies that you will use throughout your examination. You will also set up the thermal curling supplies. You will be observed for client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You will have 10 minutes to complete this section. You will be informed when you have 5 minutes remaining. The instructions will be repeated. You may begin setup. Please plug in curling irons at this time. You will set up the general supplies that you will be using throughout your examination. You will be required to disinfect your work area or use protective covering. For demonstration purposes, we will be disinfecting the station as well as placing the protective covering. You will be required to dispose of soiled materials using infection control procedures. Make sure to set up your work area with supplies labeled in English. You will also be required to set up the supplies for the blow dry, styling, and thermal curling. Make sure that when you set these implements up, they are visibly clean and sanitary. Some of the general supplies you will be required to have are a dry storage container for soiled instruments, trash bags for disposal of any soiled materials, tissue, tape, first aid supplies, a container or bag for items to be disinfected. You will be required to keep hand sanitizer on the station as well as a disinfecting spray. You will not be required to have a disinfecting station. However, if instruments become soiled, you may disinfect them with a spray disinfectant. The spray disinfectant must have the manufacturer's labels. Prior to setting up your instruments for the blow dry, styling, and thermal curling, it is important that you sanitize your hands. Once you have set up your work area with supplies labeled in English, and you have set up your instruments for the blow dry, you may plug in the instruments. You will also drape your model using a neck strip or towel and apply the drape. You have 2 minutes to remove the supplies from your kit for the blow dry, styling, and thermal curling section of this examination. Please do not begin any procedures until the verbal instructions have been read and you are instructed to begin. You may begin setup. Safely plug in your blow dryer and curling iron to be used during the procedure. Set up implements that are visibly clean and sanitary. The general supplies for the blow dry styling and thermal curling supplies are the blow dryer, your hair brushes, the thermal curling iron, combs, and material for testing the temperature of the iron. Prior to coming in contact with your model, make sure to sanitize your hands. You will now perform the blow dry styling section of this examination. You will blow dry only the top and one side of the head. You will be observed for client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You will have 10 minutes to complete this section. You will be informed when you have 5 minutes remaining. The instructions will be repeated. You may begin. Dampen the hair with a spray bottle if needed. Direct the airflow to protect the scalp. Make sure to demonstrate that you have control of the hair with the brush. You will be blow drying only the top and one side of the head. Fan the blow dryer at the scalp in order to protect it from any burns. Upon completion of the blow dry, you will be required to demonstrate the thermal curling procedure. You will now perform the thermal curling section of this examination. You will form 3 curls on the top of the head and 4 curls on one side of the head. You will be observed for client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You will have 10 minutes to complete this section. You will be informed when you have 5 minutes remaining. The instructions will be repeated. You may begin. You will be required to test the temperature of the iron prior to applying heat to the hair. You will be taking subsections of the hair that are the same width as the barrel of the iron. The length of the subsections must be no longer than 3 inches. Make sure to establish a base and distribute the hair evenly around the iron. You will be required to form 3 curls on the top of the head and 4 curls on one side of the head.